Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
The thing that happened is Tupac's family is reportedly deciding to investigate the rumors that Diddy was involved in Tupac's.
Let's dive into this shocking story that's been making waves. Diddy, the man once celebrated as an iconic music mogul and cultural trendsetter, is now facing accusations that could shatter his carefully built empire. What's even more jaw-dropping is that one of the people rumored to take the stand against him is none other than a woman he once claimed as family, his secret adopted daughter. Yes, you heard that right. A woman who grew up under his roof, away from the public eye, is allegedly coming forward with revelations that could change everything we think we know about Diddy.
Today, just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
But hold on, who even knew he had an adopted daughter? That's where the intrigue deepens. Unlike his other children, who've basked in the glittering spotlight of red carpets and lavish Instagram posts, this young woman has remained hidden. Some insiders claim she wasn't just kept out of the public eye, she was deliberately erased from public knowledge. Why? Well, according to whispers now surfacing, Diddy had his reasons that could expose the darker side of his life and legacy. This woman's name, or at least what she now goes by, is Nina Monroe. Not exactly a name you'd associate with Diddy's high-profile lineage, right? That's because she's reportedly reinvented herself entirely, stepping away from the shadow of her past. Sources describe her as someone who spent years trying to distance herself from the world she grew up in, cutting ties and even changing her appearance to avoid being recognized. But the past has a way of catching up, and now Nina is said to be ready to speak out. If these rumors are true, her testimony could expose secrets that Diddy has spent decades and millions to keep buried.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
Let's rewind for a moment and dig into how Nina ended up in this tangled web. According to insiders, Nina wasn't adopted through any conventional means. There were no court filings, no paparazzi-filled announcements, no glossy magazine spreads welcoming her into the family. She simply appeared one day, plucked from obscurity and placed into a world of unimaginable wealth and control. Some say she was taken in as a favor to someone in Diddy's inner circle, while others speculate that her origins might be tied to one of the many complicated relationships he's had over the years. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: Nina was kept far from the spotlight, raised in secrecy within the confines of Diddy's tightly guarded world.
This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
She reportedly lived a life that was both glamorous and suffocating. Imagine growing up in sprawling mansions, surrounded by luxury most people can only dream of, but knowing that every move you made was being watched. Every word you said was carefully monitored. According to those who've worked in Diddy's household, Nina's existence was marked by a strict set of rules. She wasn't allowed to attend traditional schools or make friends outside of the controlled circle Diddy curated. Her interactions with the outside world were limited to the point of isolation. And yet, despite all the wealth and privilege, sources say Nina's childhood was anything but carefree. Fast forward to today, and Nina is rumored to have shocking details about the inner workings of Diddy's life. Details that could align with the accusations now piling up against him. If the whispers are true, Nina saw and experienced things that most of us couldn't imagine. Some sources claim she was a silent witness to the power dynamics that ruled Diddy's world. From the way he allegedly controlled those around him to the troubling behavior that's now coming under scrutiny. Others suggest she may have personally endured mistreatment, though she's kept those details close to the vest for now.
A US judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
What's even more intriguing is the timing of all this. Nina's alleged decision to testify comes on the heels of several lawsuits and criminal charges that have been filed against Diddy, painting a picture of a man whose influence and power may have been used for sinister purposes. Lawyers for the prosecution are said to be building a case that includes dozens of witnesses, many of whom are reportedly ready to share stories of manipulation, coercion, and worse. And now, the possibility of Nina stepping forward could be a game changer. Her testimony wouldn't just come from someone who knew Diddy casually, it would come from someone who lived under his roof, who saw his private life up close, and who may have insights that no one else could provide.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there.
But let's not forget about the other players in this drama. Rumors are swirling about more of Diddy's children, some known, others not, who might also be brought into the courtroom spotlight. While his public-facing kids, like Christian and the twins Jesse and Delilah, have largely stayed supportive of their father, insiders hint that there could be other lesser-known offspring who've kept their distance for reasons that may soon become clear. Could they, too, have stories to tell? Could they corroborate Nina's claims or add new layers to the accusations? The possibilities are endless, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
Understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on watch.
And then there's the matter of the new claims reportedly being prepared against Diddy. Legal experts have hinted that the floodgates are about to open, with dozens of witnesses coming forward to share their experiences. Some of these witnesses are said to be industry insiders who've worked closely with Diddy, while others are women who've interacted with him in more personal settings. The sheer volume of people willing to speak out suggests that there's a much larger story at play, one that could extend far beyond what's already been revealed. What's especially chilling is the alleged connection between these new claims and the hidden lives of Diddy's unknown children. Some theories suggest that these children, like Nina, were deliberately kept out of the public eye to protect not them, but Diddy himself. Were they witnesses to events that could tarnish his reputation? Were their mothers silenced or paid off to ensure their stories never saw the light of day? These are the questions swirling around this unfolding drama, and the answers could be damning.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
As the legal battle heats up, the focus is shifting toward the bigger picture. This isn't just about one man's alleged actions. It's about the system that allowed him to operate unchecked for so long. Nina's potential testimony, combined with the accounts of other witnesses, could expose a network of enablers who turned a blind eye to questionable behavior in exchange for money, power, or access. And if the rumors about Nina's story are even half true, her words could be the tipping point that brings this house of cards crashing down. But here's where things get even more tangled. The legal team representing Diddy has been working overtime to discredit these claims, painting the allegations as baseless and financially motivated. They've described Diddy as a loving father and a respected entrepreneur, arguing that his success has made him a target for opportunists. Still, the sheer number of accusations and the depth of the alleged evidence make it difficult to dismiss this as a simple case of greed or revenge. And with Nina, a person who has nothing to gain and everything to lose, reportedly stepping into the spotlight, it becomes even harder to ignore the weight of these claims.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in the jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
The anticipation surrounding Nina's rumored testimony is palpable. Will she share details that corroborate what other witnesses have said? Will she reveal new information that could shift the case in unexpected directions? And most importantly, will her decision to speak out inspire others, perhaps even some of Diddy's other children or former associates, to come forward as well? The answers to these questions could reshape not just the trial, but the legacy of a man whose name was once synonymous with success and influence.
I think it's to be expected, just the shock of this and the questions about what is ahead of us. How long is he going to be in custody? Is this an R. Kelly situation? Is he going to not get out for a number of years? Is he going to end up serving a long-term prison sentence from this? Or does he have a chance of beating these charges at a trial that could come, within the next 2 years?
As the walls close in on Diddy, the focus on his past grows sharper. The revelations and accusations coming to light don't just paint a picture of one man's alleged actions. They shine a spotlight on the culture of silence and complicity that has surrounded him for decades. And if Nina's story is indeed connected to these broader claims, it could mark the beginning of the end for a man who once seemed untouchable. This brings us to the edge of another layer of this story, one that digs into Diddy's broader history and the troubling patterns that have followed him throughout his career. From whispers of control and manipulation to the mysterious circumstances surrounding those who've fallen out of his orbit, the shadows around Diddy's life are growing darker. And as more people step forward to share their truths, the question remains, how deep does this go?
But there's also strategic reasons for the prosecutors to want him to have co-defendants, because right now he hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial, which would force prosecutors to take him to trial pretty quick, which they actually might not be ready to do. But if they supersede him and have co-defendants with him, it makes it a lot easier to pursue a trial continuance without him waiving his speedy trial right.
Let's pick up where we left off because, trust us, the story only gets more intense from here. If you thought the revelations about Diddy's secret adopted daughter and her potential testimony were shocking, wait until we dive into the deeper, darker secrets of his past. This isn't just about one person's allegations anymore. It's about a pattern, a history that stretches back decades. And with every new detail that comes out, it's becoming harder and harder to look the other way. So let's rewind a bit to Diddy's early years in the industry. From the outside, it looked like the ultimate success story. A young, hungry entrepreneur building an empire from scratch. He was the golden boy of hip-hop, turning bad boy records into a cultural powerhouse and minting stars like Biggie Smalls and Mace. But behind the scenes, there were whispers, rumors that Diddy's rise to the top wasn't as clean-cut as he wanted everyone to believe. From the very beginning, there were claims of intimidation, manipulation, and power plays that went far beyond the music.
Yeah, but so there's still, I mean, it's crazy too because there's still more happening in court. Like, I mean, everything is still active even though we're not hearing about it as much anymore. And the people may be fatigued like we talked about prior to.
People who worked with him in those early days describe a man who was as ruthless as he was charismatic. He had an uncanny ability to make people feel like they were part of something bigger than themselves, only to discard them when they were no longer useful. And if you crossed him, well, let's just say that some of his former associates have stories that are downright chilling. One former employee who spoke on condition of anonymity claimed that Diddy had a way of making people disappear. Not literally, of course, but professionally. If you weren't with him, you were against him, they said. And if you were against him, your career was over. Period. But it wasn't just careers that seemed to vanish. Over the years, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. The people closest to Diddy, the ones who knew him best, often found themselves at the center of bizarre and tragic circumstances. Take Kim Porter, for example, the mother of 3 of his children. When she passed away in 2018, the official story was that it was due to natural causes, but almost immediately, the conspiracy theories started swirling. I'll Be Sure, her ex-partner and Quincy Brown's biological father, has been one of the loudest voices questioning the circumstances of her passing. He's even gone as far as to call for an investigation, claiming that Kim had confided in him about troubling things before her passing. There's more to this story, I'll Be Sure has said repeatedly, and honestly, it's hard not to wonder if he's right.
It sounds like there was probably a lot of hidden cameras as well. Is that what is being talked about?
Yes, this was actually in his Atlanta home, at a home he had in Atlanta at one point. And it does seem that the person isn't like looking into the video, so to me, doesn't seem like that person knows they're being videotaped. It doesn't seem like they're active participant in the videotaping.
Kim Porter wasn't just another ex. She was a central figure in Diddy's life for over a decade, and by many accounts, she knew him better than almost anyone. Friends of Kim have described her as strong, private, and fiercely protective of her children. But they've also hinted at a relationship that was far from picture perfect. According to her former lawyer, Suzanne Kimberly Bracker, Kim once described Diddy as controlling and claimed that he had hired private investigators to follow her. He was jealous and he was obsessed with her, Bracker said in an interview. And let's not forget the alleged conditions Kim lived in during one of their breakups, a rat-infested apartment on the Upper West Side, reportedly paid for by Diddy. It's a stark contrast to the opulence she enjoyed when they were together, and it raises questions about how far he was willing to go to maintain control.
I mean, that fact in of itself is a big deal because when you're talking about going back in time and talking about these allegations from other alleged victims, there's not a lot of police reports, but you guys actually have one. And is that going to be revealed? Are we going to be able to see it?
Yes, as soon as I file my lawsuit in civil court, I will be attaching the...
Then there's the issue of the so-called freak-offs, which Kim reportedly wanted no part of. According to her lawyer, Kim was too private and too classy to participate in the kinds of activities that Diddy is now being accused of orchestrating. And yet, the allegations surrounding these events paint a very different picture of the man who once called himself a family man. Prosecutors have described a world where power and influence were used to manipulate people into doing things they never would have agreed to otherwise. It's a world that Kim Porter, by all accounts, wanted nothing to do with. But could her knowledge of that world have put her in danger? That's the question that continues to haunt those who were close to her.
And it's like, it was the same thing Kim was going through. The same thing, bro. Kim was going through the same thing. The beatings, you know what I'm saying?
And let's not forget about the other suspicious circumstances that have followed Diddy throughout his career. There's the infamous nightclub shooting in 1999, which led to his arrest alongside then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez. Although Diddy was acquitted of the charges, the case raised serious questions about the kind of environment he was creating around him. Witnesses claimed that Diddy had offered them money to take the blame for the incident, a claim he has always denied. But the fact remains, wherever Diddy went, trouble seemed to follow. Now, with the charges he's facing today, it feels like all those whispers and rumors are finally catching up to him. The allegations are serious, to say the least, and they paint a picture of a man who has spent decades using his power and influence in deeply troubling ways. Prosecutors have accused Diddy of running a well-organized operation that exploited and harmed countless people. The details are shocking. Everything from coerced participation in private gatherings to the use of blackmail to keep people silent. And the most chilling part, these allegations go back years, suggesting that this wasn't just a one-time lapse in judgment, but a pattern of behavior. The sheer number of people coming forward is staggering. According to sources, there are dozens of witnesses who are ready to testify against Diddy, including former employees, industry insiders, and women who claim to have been directly affected by his actions. Some of these witnesses have reportedly been sitting on their stories for years, afraid to speak out because of Diddy's far-reaching influence. But now, with the legal system finally closing in, it seems like the floodgates have opened. And if even half of what they're saying is true, it could spell the end of Diddy's career and possibly his freedom.
You know, he get trafficking because he took her to different states and had her perform acts with different, male and different people, sometimes against her will.
But here's where things take an even darker turn. Some of the people closest to Diddy are now being implicated in covering up his alleged actions. Lawyers for the prosecution have suggested that Diddy didn't act alone, that he had a network of enablers who helped him maintain his power and silence his critics. These aren't just random employees either. We're talking about high-level associates who allegedly knew exactly what was going on and chose to look the other way. It's a classic case of power protecting power, and it raises uncomfortable questions about how many people were complicit in keeping Diddy's secrets.
Do I think, yeah. Every man possibly is capable. I think he's very capable of doing it. It's in his character. That's who he is. That's what comes with power. That's what comes with arrogance. That's what comes with, what makes him, power. That's just the selfishness to make you be like that.
Of course, Diddy's legal team is fighting back hard. They've dismissed the allegations as baseless and financially motivated, arguing that their client is being targeted because of his success. Sean Diddy Combs is an icon and a philanthropist, his lawyer has said, and these claims are nothing more than an attempt to tarnish his legacy. But the evidence piling up against Diddy is hard to ignore. From the testimonies of former employees to the allegations in multiple lawsuits, it's clear that this isn't just about one or two people with an axe to grind. This is about a culture of control and exploitation that has allegedly been allowed to flourish for far too long. And let's not forget the financial side of all this. One of the most telling details in these allegations is the sheer amount of money that Diddy has reportedly spent to keep people quiet. From settlements to hush money, there are claims that millions of pounds have been paid out over the years to ensure that certain stories never saw the light of day. It's a tactic we've seen before in other high-profile cases, And it speaks to just how much power and influence Diddy wielded, but as we've learned time and time again, money can only buy silence for so long.
Person that really put their hands on women really is men who have feminine traits. So, you know, it really takes a coward to put his hands on a woman. So, you know, a man is so strong enough, we can just walk away. You can do, it's so many different things that you can do other than get upset, put your hands on a woman. But that comes from a man who's not quite a grown man.
So where does this leave us? With each new revelation, it feels like we're getting closer to the truth, but there's still so much we don't know. What really happened to Kim Porter? How many people were involved in keeping Diddy's alleged actions under wraps? And perhaps most importantly, how will this all end? Will Diddy finally be held accountable? Or will his team find a way to spin the narrative in his favor once again? As we wait for the next chapter in this unfolding saga, one thing is clear: the world is watching. And with more people stepping forward every day, it's only a matter of time before all the pieces of this puzzle fall into place. The question is, will Diddy's empire survive the fallout? Or are we witnessing the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful figures in entertainment history? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the discussion going. Until next time, stay tuned for more updates on this riveting story.